guys, welcome to another episode of Ask Alex, where this is just a show where I take all your questions and answer them here on this show. I'm your host, Alex Hampton, and today have a super jam-packed show today. A lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of interesting questions I got over the weekend. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Wait, before I jump into it, just a few quick plugs. If you want to get your question on the show, it's very simple. All you have to do is just send me an email at static145910@gmail.com. Or you can easily just tweet me at Mr. Alex Hampton, or you can leave a comment under my Instagram at Mr. Alex Hampton as well. And also, this weekend, this Saturday and Sunday, May 18th, May 19th, I'll be going to MegaCon right here in Orlando, where I'm going to meet a plethora of artists, actors, cosplayers, a whole lot of cool stuff. And I will be there live streaming, doing a whole lot of cool things as well. Be taking pictures. So if you're in Orlando and you're going to MegaCon, like, meet up with me. Let's talk. Let's have a dialogue. Let's meet up. Let's take pictures. Let's do a lot of cool stuff. So let's go ahead. With all that away, let's go ahead and jump into the first question of the day. And the first question comes from a Kevin Turner, and he writes, "Hey Alex, I love your show." Well, thank you, Kevin. I really do appreciate that. So I saw a report that Detective Pikachu had the possibility to beat Avengers Endgame in the opening box office. Okay. After this weekend, that's clearly not the case. How could people really think that Detective Pikachu was really going to beat Endgame? Well, thank you for your question, Kevin. So there was a report floating around comicbook.com and a lot of other outlets saying that there's a possibility that Detective Pikachu could possibly top Avengers Endgame. Well, whoever wrote those reports at those particular websites, they're crazy. Because don't get me wrong, Detective Pikachu is a good movie, but it's definitely not a movie that people have been waiting for 12 years, if anything. So the fact that people came out with this report and reported it on that, it actually was kind of asinine. And not only that, like, Detective Pikachu came out this past weekend and Avengers Endgame still beat it. Avengers Endgame still beat it even in their opening weekend. And Avengers had I think it was their third biggest opening on the third week of its being out. So overall, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Pikachu. I'm a fan of Avengers as well, but I never once thought that Avengers Endgame was going to crumble beyond Detective Pikachu. So no, but let's not act like that Detective Pikachu didn't win. They did make a good bit of money this weekend, and I've heard a lot of great things about the movie as well. So a lot of people are saying it's funny, it's definitely for families, and it's a true depiction of what we know as Pokemon in our current real world. So I think that is actually awesome, and I'm interested in seeing the movie, and I am also interested to see where the story takes us. So thank you for your question, Kevin. Let's go ahead and jump into the next question of the day, which comes from a Thomas Bailey, and he writes, "Greetings from Michigan." Oh, okay. Well, nice to meet you. Tom has never been to Michigan before, but it's glad that I have a viewer from Michigan. I was wondering, what are your thoughts about Hulk being underused in Avengers Endgame? Well, thank you for your question, Thomas. So this is going to get into some spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, I would fast forward this part until you get to the next question. But if you have seen it, you know exactly what this question is referring to. But if you haven't seen this movie, go ahead and fast forward or come back and watch this video after you've seen the movie, because I'm about to dive into some spoilers. So now that I've gotten that out the way, what Thomas is referring to is that, in Avengers Infinity War, we didn't really see the Hulk do much in that movie, and we just expected the Hulk to be basically coming back with a vengeance. In Infinity War, he basically got whooped by Thanos. In Endgame, he was more of a supporting role than he was the brooding Hulk. He was more so the Professor Hulk role, where he is just, providing tech, helping them time travel, and Hulk was the one who did the snap to bring everybody back from the unsnapped. So to a degree, I understand where he was coming, where people are coming from when he said he was underused. Like, we didn't really see Hulk fight in this movie. Actually, the Hulk really doesn't fight at all in Avengers Endgame. Now that I think about it, like he's more, like I said, he's more so the supportive tech role. Like he isn't like fighting anybody. Like he doesn't even have an encounter with Thanos in regards to fighting him. So, which I thought was kind of weird. But I will say that he was definitely a significant role because he did bring everyone back from the snap. He did provide a way to help them time travel through the quantum realm, and he assisted Bruce and the team with whatever that they needed. So the Hulk, and on top of that, he time traveled to get the time stone, which was not an easy feat. So the Hulk really did do his job in terms of helping the team, but we really didn't see him be the hulking monster that we know. You know, he didn't jump into a rage, which I was actually expecting to see. I was expecting him to go after Thanos. Like, I really was expecting that, but we didn't really get that in this movie. So I'm not sure why he was underused. I think that they want to get him, I think they want to basically explore the other characters in that particular movie, and essentially that they did. You know, we explored Captain America, we explored Iron Man, we explored, you know, some of the Guardians. So, you know, there's a lot of things that they wanted to focus on, and they wanted to use Hulk in a very different way, which I thought suit and fit the movie. I thought it was actually pretty perfect to see him interacting and doing the things that he did in this particular movie. So thank you for your question, Thomas. Let's go ahead and jump into the next question. And it comes from a Calvin Mathis. And he writes, "Hey Alex, will John Wick 3 be the last movie in the John Wick series?" Okay, well thank you for your question, Calvin. So John Wick 3 comes out, I think, in the next week or so. And so far, if you haven't seen the previous movies, they're amazing. Like, I think, and I haven't seen John Wick 3 yet, but I think that what they're doing with John Wick, with Keanu Reeves and the actors and the directors who are attached, I'm like, wow, they're really killing it. I did read a report that while they were developing John Wick 3, they're also developing a TV series for John Wick. So I think what we're going to see is that if John Wick 3 does well in theaters, which I know it will, if it does well in theaters, there may be a John Wick 4, but I think the TV series that's coming out is going to be more of an origin of how John Wick became John Wick. Because if anybody's watched the movies of John Wick, he's essentially a bounty hunter in a sense. So I don't think this will be the last movie if it does well in theaters, but I do think that they are developing a TV series. Last couple reports that I read that's what they were doing as they were preparing for the third movie. So I don't think it will be, but it shouldn't be. So thank you for your question, Calvin. Now let's go ahead and jump into the last question of the day. This is the ultimate question that I got over the weekend that I had to answer, and I had to save it for last, which comes from a Sabrina Cook. And she writes, "Hey Alex, after watching Avengers Endgame, what do you think that Warner Brothers can learn from watching the MCU flourish the way that it has?" Well, thank you for your question, Sabrina. I'm going to try to keep this as articulate and short as possible. And I'm glad she asked me this question because I've had a lot of conversations about this. Here's the thing. You know what the MCU did right? They had Kevin Feige lay out a plan. And they said, listen, no matter what happens, we're going to stick to this plan. We may have to move certain things around, but we have a narrative of where we're going to take each character and how each character is going to begin and how they're going to end. Or how they're going to spin off and then be ancillary characters. He had a plan. DC does not have a plan, nor do they have a Kevin Feige. That's number one. Number two, Kevin Feige focused on directors and writers who could tell a story, right? And they weren't focusing on A-listers. They were focusing on people who they know could tell a story. They weren't worried about, like the big Oscar winners or the people who have awards. They're focusing on people who can tell good stories. DC, aside from their studio interference, they didn't have that many good people telling good stories. I'm sorry. And then the problem with DC is that they left Zack Snyder in charge of certain things a little bit too long. When I said from the jump, after Man of Steel, he should have been done. Like, there should have been someone else on BVS, someone else on Justice League. You know, that's the reason why we have a lot of things crumble upon DC. Here's another thing that DC could learn from Marvel. Another thing that they can learn from Marvel is that, listen, when you establish your plan and you know where you're trying to go and what you're trying to establish, you need to give your directors creative freedom to work around those parameters. DC didn't do that. That's the reason why a lot of their movies are not so good, because they did not do that. So I think in a nutshell overall, if DC just hired good storytellers, a person to guide the DCEU and say, this is what we're going to do, and if you're going to establish a universe, see, here's the thing, there's no fan out there, there's no movie fan or comic book fan out there that's solely attached to these DC movies. Meaning that when we saw Avengers Endgame, right, and we saw certain people lose their lives in that movie, if we were to watch Justice League 2, right, and certain people lose their lives, it's not going to have that much of an effect like it did in Avengers Endgame. Remember in Infinity War where most people died in that movie and people were crying, right? Justice League will never reach that pinnacle until they establish characters that people could love. Their movies are all over the place. They're all over the place. We don't even know if this is an established universe. We don't. Even now with the recent Shazam movie that came out, right, that currently lives in the DCEU, that established that Superman exists, Batman exists, all these different people exist, but yet after Shazam, it's literally when the stuff hits the fan. We get a Birds of Prey movie that has no business being there. We have a Joker movie that has no business being there. You know, and then we have a Batman movie that Ben Affleck is not even in. So ultimately, they need to establish a plan and say, hey, if this is what we're going to do, let's stick to it. And if something happens, okay, let's develop a contingency that assists the plan, not completely divert it. Like I said, like this whole Joker movie, don't get me wrong, I'm going to watch the Joker movie. But this whole Joker movie and Birds of Prey movie and the reboot of the Suicide Squad has nothing to do with the DCEU. They are completely separating themselves from the universe. So what was the point of building it up? They're retreating. So that's my thing, and I've probably spent a little bit too long on that, and you know, I get a little bit passionate because DC is actually one of my favorite comic books. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this this jam-packed episode of Ask Alex. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that button for me, and you can get all my notifications and all the things that I'm doing. And please follow me on multiple social medias, and also go support my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/MomentoMedia. We're doing so many great things. We're definitely going to be in Orlando MegaCon this weekend, and I can't wait to see you guys there. And as always, you guys have a blessed day. Thank you guys for watching this video. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube page to get more exclusive content coming from my YouTube channel. And if you want to watch my previous videos, go ahead and click on this video up here or this video down here, where you get to see more exclusive content coming from my channel. Thank you guys for watching this video, and you guys have a blessed day.